Well, hello and welcome back. My name's Kieran Siemens, and this is my Inky World, where we talk about art, drawing, and anything fun and funky. Today we are going to talk about one of your favorite subjects, is my inspiration for. Now, every artist in their life has stages of inspiration, and you might see something in a gallery or in a book, and it might inspire you to start a different direction or a different inspiration. So, one of the things you keep asking me about is, when I did this, what was my inspiration? So, the Little China comic, which was the thing that we talked about in some of the videos, which was the Clunkin' and Clankin', which there is about 13 comic books. And one of the questions was inspiration. So today we're going to talk about inspiration. Okay, so we're going to continue our talk on inspiration. Now, when I was drawing the comic, it was we're going back about 10 years ago, and up until that point I'd worked quite mostly in animation. So a lot of my drawing was pencil based, or whatever textures they were coming through on some of the things, like when the wind blows, it was all about wax pencils and like a coloring system. So that's a very, very different style. And that works for a lot of animators. It brings us into this realm of all these illustrators and all these other people out there that are coming up and creating styles. And one of the styles that I came across, and one of the books that I came across, inspired me probably more than any towards the Little China series that I did. But there was a lot of comics around at the time, and my main comic, as with most boy beginners with the comic world, it was all about superheroes, and it was all about 2000 AD. I was crazy about 2000 AD, and all the robots and the space, and everything was kind of like space and superheroes, and that was wonderful as a young boy. But when I started to get into later ideas and later artists, I started to explore, and I started to find people that it's quite unusual, or it's quite a special thing, that when you're an artist and you're thinking like this, and all of a sudden you find a book or an illustrator that makes your mind do that, and it opens up new possibilities that you've probably never ever thought about. Now, one of the first characters that I really kind of got an attachment to, and was basically from my brother's comic collection. I was into the 2000 AD and all that space stuff, and all of a sudden he was sitting there laughing away at this one. For the top camera, I will show you also Fat Freddie's cat. The Adventures of Fat Freddie's cat. And hopefully you can see some of these pages of artwork. And it was something that I had never thought somebody would put as much detail as. That's the first page. Look, you open it to see something as detailed as that. I mean, that is just insane. And for me, looking at some of those illustrations and seeing what people had thought about, they had gone to these elaborate. I mean, just the next page to it is just unbelievable. The amount of work and detail and shading and blackening in and text had gone into something like that. It was just completely blew my mind. And as I went through pages and pages and pages of incredible artwork, and it made me, the part of this story is probably a very basic joke, but the way they tell the story with all the drawings was just mind-blowing for me. I mean, every time you saw, even a drawing like that, that would take so long to draw the characters. But for every panel, look at all these panels that you've got here, like like that one and that one. You know, it's just incredible. Look at that one with the car and all the people. So that was really quite an incredible explosion in my brain. And these are old comics. My brother used to read them. And I would sit there and pick up some of these comics and I would laugh for hours. And I was like, wow, how incredible that a comic would put such humor into your day, put so much fun into your day. And the way that the cat became quite important. Look, there's a couple of pages later on. And you can see how that one joke about this, like here, the snake, him seeing a snake in the garden or a hose or whatever it ended to be. The cat kind of became a superpower almost, a super character. And it was really incredible for me to see something like this. And, you know, you might think that he would do all of that, those drawings and all of that artwork and all of the detail just to capture you, you know, get your interest. But what actually happened is that he does that for every book. And some of the books, some of the drawings would probably take days just for one of the drawings to be drawn. And it's just, it was very, 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 very impressive for me to see something like that. And still is, you know. I mean, these are going back from like the 60s and 70s probably. It doesn't have a date on there, but no date. But you can imagine, is there a date? No. But, I mean, look at the artwork. It just used to make me laugh. Look at the way he's got a hand on his tail. I mean, that's just, I loved it. I absolutely loved this. And that was a different direction. And when you start to find those different directions, the world opens. It's like one comic or one book or one illustrator or just seems to take your world from this to that in one idea. And it's such an incredible thing about being an artist when you have that power around you from all of these amazing people. And that kind of led me on, you know, through lots and lots and lots of comics until I came to this one. Now, Calvin and Hobbes, little boy and his kind of imaginary tiger. And it's one of those books that, I don't know, it just took from being here in animation and all the perfect lines and everything to, you know, Fat Freddie's cat, to all of a sudden you went from Calvin and Hobbes. Wow. Was such an amazing artist. And he's doing comics. And every time you turn a couple of pages, I mean, it kind of goes like the first page. You're kind of looking how it's deceptively simple. The first page where it's just like a boy and a box and talking to his mum, and it's very, very, very simple. And when you turn the next page, I don't know. I mean, look at the ideas and look at the power of his drawing, and the poses were so powerful. Wow. That took me into a different world, a different complete concept of a comic and what a comic could do. And the elephant becomes, in his mind, becomes part of this whole story. And the drawings in it, I mean, you kind of go from page to page and there simply is no weak drawing, you know. And you're looking at a book that's that thick, and every page and every drawing is just immaculate, with concept, with imagination, with poses. It's just, I mean, even to the point where you're doing a full open page like this here. I mean, that's an idea, you know. And look at the detail that he's gone into, and the way that he's done this background with one orange line. Wow. You know, that just made me think. And it made me think about how you could tell a whole background, how you could tell a whole feeling in a line, one line. And it was just incredible. So I started to go through these books and read these books, and it was like, I need to do something like that. That I've got to go and try this idea of drawing hundreds and thousands of drawings and poses to create a comic. And that was my goal. That was where, I mean, I can't believe some of these. I mean, look at this top picture here. It's like of space. And he's done that full panel, this top panel here, with so much detail, with the moon, with all the spaceships and the lasers and the explosions and the text. Wow. That just grabs your attention straight off the bat. And before then, he comes flying down and he crashes his rocket. It's just an incredible thing to lead up to the fact that he's just a boy in a sandpit playing. And that's his imagination. Has done all this beginning. And that whole kind of childish imagination was beautiful. And that was an inspiration for me. So, for all the questions about what was the inspiration for being an illustrator to go to doing a comic book, and in this case it's a rather thin comic book compared to what Bill Watterson was doing. I mean, my panels, and one of the things that I learned looking back at this is that I've done the panels so small, but with the same amount of, hopefully with the same amount of care and attention to poses, and like my first one there, he's underwater and he's thinking about things, and he comes walking out and he's soaking wet. It was a lot of work to do something like that, to do all the drawing and do all the painting and do all the text. And although at the beginning, when you're doing a comic and you're doing so many hundreds of poses and drawings and colouring, what happens is that you start to get to a point where these books become a piece of artwork in their own right. And some of the poses that I've done and some of the stories, and I've tried to do it in a way that sometimes you could pull one of those poses out or one of those ideas out. Even like that one down the bottom there with him having the flowers above and the flowers are kissing. That, for me, was a very, very beautiful point. And what happens is that could be a picture in its own. It could be a thought in its own. It could be a poster in its own. It could be a greetings card in its own. And that changed my whole concept of putting the work in. That if you put the work in, when you go back to look at something years later, it's still as beautiful. And I'm very proud of the fact that, like there, he's climbing into the bath, you know, he's got this, and it really works so beautifully. There he is up in there climbing into the bath. And I love that because it began to give me flexibility with the power of telling a story. That sometimes you could put things in there that just became a beautiful pose and a beautiful image. And for me, that went on through my years of doing Little China. And that's why, even after 10 years, I'm coming back to it to think about, I want to do more. I want to do more of it. And I want something to grow. I want to see where my mind has grown and my ability has grown and my patience maybe has grown. To be able to get back and to do a lot more of these, a comic book, a way of telling stories in picture form is such a beautiful thing. So, the question answered there is inspiration. Inspiration comes from everything. And I think sometimes although you might not copy something, there's something about an element of, even from Fat Freddy's Cat, I still see some of those beautiful comic ideas in a illustrated form and not in a basic comic. So when you are making your comic, you really need to sit down and think about, why do you want to do a comic? What is your reason for this? And for mine was about bringing this childish philosophy into the world, about a child's view of the world through this little bear. And I'm very excited to do more, and I'm very excited to see some of the books that we've done. I mean, I've said this before, but there's about 13 of these comics, and there's about 26 of the children's stories. I don't have any of the children's books here. I don't think so. But there's about 28 of the children's books where the panda became a cartoon show. It became a 3D cartoon show. And part of the beauty of that was that the panda kind of became a character in a cartoon to tell a bigger story. And that led to, obviously, back to the books, where the books are telling a kid's story. And it's still one of my favorite characters, and I'm really, really excited to get back to it. I'm really excited to do more of it, and I'm really hoping over the coming months you will enjoy seeing this cartoon element away from my illustrations, away from the books. It's a completely different world, and it's also drawn in a very completely different style. I do draw with these kind of brush pens, which I've explained. And it doesn't change anything about my style of drawing so much, though it does dictate you draw it in a certain way. And that led me to a more slowed down approach, not so quick with the nib. So I'm really looking forward to drawing these over the next couple of months, and I really hope you will be there with me, and I really hope you will support the channel and support the artwork. You know, go and buy a book and support the artist. And I will be back with some more drawings and some more details very, very, very soon. So stay with me. We've got some great fun coming, and I'll see you all again very, very, very soon. Bye-bye.